Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Mashiach Baruch.
Amen.
Chaim, everybody.
Okay, welcome, folks. Everybody. Who's at the front door? Thank you.
Someone's in front.
Hi, nice picture.
No.
Yeah. All right, we have David with us, Roy, Tim, Simon.
Hold on. Where's this? No. Hold on, folks.
Michael,
Nichols around.
Andrew, what else is with us here? Hava, Alan, Davida, they can, not at the moment. But here, 1 second, they could see you. Here we go.
I can't find where this is.
Oh,
Hold on. There we go.
There we go. Now they can.
We're on YouTube.
There we go. Okay. Welcome, folks. Torah portion. We are in Parshas Metzorah, chapter 15, verse 16. The sixth reading. We yesterday read about the Zo'ov, which was an emission, a bodily emission that was not a regular normal emission by male or female. It comes from the genitals, both male and female. And today we go into a regular discharge. This is of the male, Shivcha Zera, as it's called, a semen discharge. So, and the impurity that creates. So again, sixth reading. The ish ki teitzei mimenu shivcha zara, and a man, when will come out from him, shivchas zara, a seminal discharge, therefore he has to immerse his flesh in water, meaning in a mikvah. The tamei adarav, and he remains unclean until the evening. Chol beged, chol or asher alav, next verse in 17, and any garment or leather object, or is leather, or sounds like light, but that's with an aleph. This is with an ayin, so it's a different word, right? So leather, any leather, love that will be on him, or any garment, shivchas zara, shall be immersed in. That, in other words, all of shivchas zara. In other words, if it got on the garment of the person, it too needs to be immersed. Chubas b'mayim, v'tamei adarav, and it also remains unclean until the evening, right? And remember that we've learned this before, that the unclean means here that if you need to do something in a holy manner, like go to the holy temple because of the holiday, so that's what we're talking about. So that clothing or that person needs to immerse themselves, right? To be in a pure state. To do things of purity. Yud Ches, 18. The Isha, ki yishkav ish isa, a woman, when a man will cohabitate with her, have relations with her, shivcha zara, and where there will be a discharge of semen, meaning from the man, and they shall immerse in water, but tamei adarav, and they shall remain unclean until the evening. 18 in Rashi, they shall immerse themselves in water. This is a decree of the king. In other words, it's beyond rationale. In other words, shetitma isha, that the woman becomes impure, but bia, through having relations. The ain't time, and there isn't a reason for the impurity. Mishum negeya v'shivcha zara, because of the impurity of which has come in contact, who comes in contact with semen. Sharei maga besa starimhi, because the contact of the semen through relation, through intercourse, is in the inside her organs. So why should it become impure? When you touch it, then okay, we understand it, right? Your clothing touched it, we get that. But here, there was no touching of it, right? Because we don't have to say that if there was a touch to it, we already learned that, right? That if you came in contact. But the fact that it's relations, so it's coming to teach us a chiddush, a novelty. So the novelty is here that just in the relations itself, that creates the impurity. Okay, is that clear?
See, each relationship you have with your
Possibility for fertilization.
Right. So no, don't read it. What are you reading into it? Don't read into it. He just said it's beyond rationale, first of all, and secondly, he didn't say that. Right. So let's just keep to what's being taught here. Right. So again, as we just mentioned, it means to be in a state of purity that you're going to eat truma if you're a kohen, or you're the wife of the kohen. For you to eat the truma means you just have to go to the mikvah, but not for regular daily activity is not a problem. To eat breakfast, to have your coffee now or your water now is not a problem. To be in a state of impurity, right? Not a problem to be in a state of impurity. It's to do holy activity. That is, again, every Israelite that would go to the holy temple, right? So, and it means to be impure for that day. You go to the mikvah, and that night you become clean. So it means the following day you could bring an offering. You couldn't bring an offering on that day. I mean, whatever. It's a bit tricky. No, right. It says Satami Ada Arev, right? Well, let's see. We'll see further. It says next. 19. The Ishak is Iazova, Dam Iazova. So we finish now with Shivcha Zara from the man, right? Now we're going to the woman and her discharge of Azova, which is not a regular, not Nida, right? This is not Nida. This is not her regular menstrual cycle. It's outside of that cycle. Ishak is Azava, when a woman will be Azava, right, have this discharge. Dami Azova will be a blood that will flow, Metzorah from her flesh. Shivas Yamim Tiyeh B'Nidasa. She will be 7 days. So use the words nida over here, but means separation. 7 days of separation. Okay. And anybody who will touch her will become unclean till the evening. Okay. Again, unclean because of her, she being a avatuma, she's a primary source of impurity, right? And therefore anybody that touches her becomes unclean in the sense that they cannot do holy activity. 19. When a woman will have a discharge, I might think that a discharge may. Oh, today's learning Yud Aleph Nisan in the honor of the Rebbe's birthday, and also your site of Haskell Reuben, Haskell Ben. Yeah.
And can we consider that today we don't have a temple, but the learning of Torah is considered to be like the service of God? Like if you touch a woman who's impure, you cannot.
It doesn't matter. We're all impure anyways because we've come in contact with the corpse, so we need cleansing from with a red heifer. So don't fret. Don't fret. Okay. That's there's a Hasidic custom going to the mikveh every day. There's such a thing, right? But it's not to help with these issues that we're talking about because it's there's things that we can't do. Okay, so one might think from one among any of her limbs renders her impure. Talmud Leimar, the verse tells us otherwise. He gilsa is mokr dameha. it says later on in chapter 20, verse 18, it says over there that she has bared the source of her blood, which implies ein dam mitame, that the discharge of blood does not cause impurity, but that which comes from the uterus, from its source. That's what we're talking about. Now, just from here, it wouldn't be clear that that's what it means, right? It says a discharge from her body. Well, where from her body, right? What kind of discharge? Is it a secretion from your eye that you have some kind of issue with your eye? Right? It's not clear from the verse, right? Not here, but later on, in chapter 20, verse 16, or 18 rather, it says there. Okay? Dami Metzorah, the discharge of the from her flesh being blood, and the discharge is not called discharge l'tami, to make one impure, ela imkain, unless unless it is red.
Menstrual cycle or
No, we said it's not. Remember, this is Zava. This is not in her menstrual cycle. Right. Okay. So since it says dam, Zeva, it says blood will be her discharge, right? So blood meaning that it's red, and there's different kinds of redness. Benidasa, next Rashi, 19, in her state of separation, Kamoi Shemitabel Yaniduhu, as in the phrase, the universe, they will banish him. She is referred to in this way, she ben Huda, because she is banished, mimagesh kol adam, from touching any person, right? Because that's what it means she's banished, right? She shouldn't touch her husband because it shall make him impure, or she shouldn't touch any other person, will make that person impure as a result, right? Clear? All right. Hi. So that's touching her, but anyone who touches her bedding, right? Yichabes bigadav, has to wash their clothes, and is impure until the evening. Remember, we learned this yesterday. Did you notice something here different than the previous? If she touches, who has to go to the mikvah? The person. The clothing? No. But if you lie on the place where she was lying on, let's say, on a bed or on a couch that she was lying, who goes to the mikvah? The person and the garment. We learned this yesterday, that we see from here that touch is not as stringent as when you're touched by someone who's impure, as if you lie on the place where they lied. Okay? Let's go to the next verse. And anyone touches an object upon which she sat, so that person has to close and immerse in the mikvah, right? And be unclean until the evening. Right? That's anyone who touches an object that which she sat upon. We had lied upon and now sitting upon. Right? Be'im ala mishkavhu, and if the person's on the bedding, oy ala kli asher hi yosheves alav, or like on the chair, kli is right on the object, meaning the chair has to be something that's, as we learned yesterday, if you're lying on a chair, right, it doesn't work. It has to be something that's to be lied upon, right, like a bed, right? And if you sit on the bed rather than lie on the bed, so it doesn't apply that law either, right? Yitma ad, sorry. Asher he yeshevas alav, that she sits upon benaga boy, and you touched it. Yitma adarev.
He's not lying on it, he just touches it.
I gave, yeah. Now,
He doesn't have to do garments.
right? Because what did you do? You didn't lie on it. You touched it. So here we see clearly again, like we learned yesterday, right? That the touching is not as stringent as lying or sitting. Okay.
But is there a logic?
Is there a logic? Well, there's a logic in the sense that
if you touch, it's your end, but if you lay, your clothes is also touched.
no, because if you lie on the place where a person lied, so there is you're engaged first of all in the way that they engaged in it, right? In that object, that's first of all, and secondly, lying down is more engagement of a person than touching something, right? So then we can understand how that would be more stringent, right? I mean, we see a distinction at least, right? When you lie on a bed, you're a lot more engaged in that bed than you are touching it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so then you can understand how it would be more stringent.
With the contact also, because your clothes is going to be in contact with the object used.
Yeah, but what if you touch with your clothes? No. Right.
Because when you touch with your end. Your end is,
And if you're wearing a glove, so does the glove have to go?
yeah, you have to clean the gloves.
No, it didn't. Okay, let's see Rashi. 23. The im ala mishkavhu, and if someone is on the bedding, hashechiv, and one who lies, or yeshiv, or one who sits al mishkava on her bedding, or al mishav on her seat, even if he did not make direct contact with it. In other words, let's say you put down a sheet, so you didn't touch it exactly. You didn't touch it, right? You didn't touch it. Af Vidas Tuma, this is also included in the law of impurity. So the text says boy with it. So because the verse says, one second, let me just back on the verse, make sure I got clarity here. No, it says v'naga ba. You mean, in other words, in it, of it. Meaning, even if there's something separating, but you're still sitting on it, right? So you're not directly contacting it. You're still impure. Avubidas tuma. You're also the law of impurity. Ha'amura b'mikra elyon, which is stated in the verse above. Sheton kibas begadim, that a person requires immersion of the garments, right? Ala kli, on the utensil. The rabbis es hamerkav. This includes riding equipment because it says on the utensil. So that includes riding equipment, and riding equipment. Okay, benagad by, when he touches it. This is referring to riding equipment, which is included on the utensil, right? Meaning on the riding equipment. That's how it's including it, right? Now, this part of the verse is speaking about who receives impurity through touching without the impurity extending to their clothing, right? So the first part of the verse, the way I'm understanding it, Hmm. So b'nagai boy. So the first part of the is speaking about when you're sitting or lying, and there's something that's separating. You're still impure. B'nagai boy. Oh boy. I'm not certain how he makes that separation. So the inotain kibbutz begadim. You don't need immersion of the garments or the riding equipment. Touching it does not make a person impure. To in turn make garments impure. So it says boy in it. So that's including writing. And therefore, you do not make your clothing, because here it's only speaking about the person becoming impure, right? So how do we understand that you're lying on it or you're sitting on it, right? Which we already said that your clothes become impure. But here now it's only saying that when you touch it, you become impure. What happened to the clothing, right? So we're speaking about in this instance, also it seems to be redundant, because what are we speaking about here is lying or sitting on something. We've already dealt with this. So this verse is coming to tell us not in a case where you're sitting on it directly, but there's something indirect that is no. First there's that too, but first you put let's say a clean sheet over it. That's not impure. It still makes you impure, but not your garments.
So they put something.
But but it's also including, because it says on the vessel, meaning on it, is also including the saddle, riding equipment, right? And that they're also, by touching, you become impure. So only speaking about touching. That's the way
Doesn't put directly on the horse. There's like a sheet or a cover, whatever. We can put the saddle on.
Right. Okay. V'im shachayiv yishkav ish. And if shachav yishkav ish oisa, and if a man has relations with woman, siya nidasa, and it will be her menstruation, all love upon him. Tamei shivas yamim, be impure for 7 days. V'chol hamishkav asher yishkav alav itma, and he shall be unclean for 7 days, and any bedding he lies upon shall become unclean. 24. Let's see Rashi. See nidasa alav, the state of separation will be upon him. Yachol, one might think, yala l'ragla, that he should ascend from his impurity when her time of separation has ended. Sheim ba'aleha, that if he had relations with her, b'chamisha lenida, on the 5th day of her state of separation, lo yidma elesh lo yamim, that she should be impure for only 3 days. The 5th, 6th, and 7th are in a state of impurity. Kemaisa, like her. Whoa. In other words, like this, it says, the verse is saying over here, the uncleanness of her menstruation shall be upon him. So that, what does it mean upon him? In other words, just like she's impure, so will he be impure, right? That's what the verse sounds like, what it's coming to suggest. That on the 5th day of her state of separation, that it would that she would be impure only, he would be only impure 3 days, 5th, 6th, and 7th, like her, Kamaisa, like her. Talmud Lemar, this comes to teach us otherwise, Tamei Shivas Yamim, that he's impure 7 days. Matam Leimar, why does there say Siya Nidasa Allah, that her separation will be upon him? That's to teach you Mahi Matama Adam Mekeli Vecheres, just as she transmits impurity to people in pottery. Afhu Matama Adam Kli Cheres. Likewise, he also second. In other words, he is okay. There's two things over here. He's impure 7 days of his own 7-day counting, right? That's one thing. And secondly, so then why does it come and say that her impurity will be upon him? Which sounds like he's measuring the time period according to her time period. No, it means her impurity, just as she will impurify someone by touching them, right? In her state of nida. Likewise, he will do that by touching anybody or to touching pottery, something that we actually learned yesterday. But there's something not perfectly clear, but that's what the verse is coming to say. Okay? Hope that was clear. If not, next year we're going to learn it again. Or we'll learn it in Rambam. 25. Isha ki yazav zayv dama yamim rabim. Isha, a woman, ki yazav zayv, when the flow of the blood of flow, yamim rabim, for many days. V'loy eis nidasa. That's not in the time of her menstruation. Or ki sazuv al nidasa, or that she has a discharge al nidasa. On her, meaning after her menstruation separation. Kol yemei zayv tumasa kimeni dasatia tmeahi. All of these days of her that has her unclean discharge, she will be unclean just like the days of her menstrual separation. Okay, let's see this. I think this is an important verse that teaches us in this area of menstrual cycle and so on, I think. 24. No, sorry. 25. Yamim Rabim. What does it mean, many days? Shlishi Yamim. 3 days. That's many. In other words, Yamim is plural, right? Yom is 1 day. Yamim is minimum 2 days. So if you say Yamim Rabim, what does that mean? Minimum 3 days. Got it? That's how Rashi gets it. Okay. Beloy eis nidasa, outside of the period of separation, immediately after 7 days of separation have elapsed. Right? That, in other words, that is yeah. I think that, remember, there's two things here. There's nida, which is regular menstrual cycle. And then outside of that is zava, right? That's not in the regular time. It's a different category, right? And more stringent law, as we've learned yesterday. So kisaz oisazu, kisazu, or it's she has a flow. As Shleshis and Yamim Halalu, these 3 days. So the Yamim Rabbi, the many days at the beginning of the verse, is not stated explicitly with reference to the flow, which is al nidasa, beyond her separation. It applies to the phrase as well as to the flow, belay es nidasa, outside of her time period of separation. Al nidasa, beyond her separation, muflag, a distant, which is distant time, mididasa, from her period of separation, yaim echad, 1 day or more. Zuhi zava, and this is then is a case of a zava. Kishipatma charutz, her law is ruled upon the parsha zu, in this portion of the Torah. V'loi kidas anida, and her law is not like a woman who is impure due to menstruation. Shizu, for in order to become pure, the zava, who has a discharge after the 7th day from the onset of her menstrual flow, to una requires sfira shivas nikim, a count of 7 days without a discharge, the korban, an offering. That's a zava, right? Now there's a zava needs 7 days of counting. She needs to count 7 clean days, and then she needs to bring a sacrifice.
What's different between that and her regular?
Now I was going to say, Anida, but Anida in a tu'una does not require Sfiras Shivas Nikim. She doesn't have to count 7 clean days. Ella Shivas Yamim Tiyan Nidasa. Rather, she shall be in a state of separation for a 7-day period. Bein Raya, whether she sees blood beyond her initial flow, Bein She'ena Raya, or whether she does see blood, she does not see any blood anymore. 1 second. In other words, at the end, by a zava, you have to have 7 completely clean days. By a nida, you just have to, when you have the nida, and by the way, we have to know that we're learning biblical law now. This has got nothing to do on how husband and wife are with each other, not because nida and zav are brought together in law. Right? In biblical teachings over here, they're separated. They're 2 separate things. In halacha, they're one identity, which we have to learn in the Rambam. It's not going to learn. I don't want to. I'm not going there now. I just want to learn the biblical law. But you should know that the way we do in halacha has got nothing to do with the way it is in these verses over here. Okay. So that's why it's a bit confusing, because we know that in halacha today you have to have 7 clean days. Right after she sees no more blood, that's based on a zava, not based on nida. Nida, you don't. That's what Rashi just said. Nida, for when she had her menstrual cycle, the flow, right? It finished. That from that time, 7 days later, she goes to mikvah. She's okay, right? She's okay, even if she's spotted in the middle. That's biblical law. That's not the way halacha is. Because we put the 2 things together and they become one mesh together, which is very complicated in Rambam, at least for me. Okay, so Bain, right? So whether this is what Rashi just said, whether she sees more blood, like she'll see some blood during those 7 days, that's okay. Again, biblically, okay. The sages interpret this portion of the Torah as indicated, the 11 days, shebein seif nida, at the end of her period of separation of letchilas nida to the beginning of her next separation. So it goes like this. Nida is from when she has her menstrual period for 11 days. For the first 11 days. From 11 days until 11 days, and 11 days onwards, that's zava, because that's not in her cycle anymore. So if she sees blood, then that's called an unusual discharge, right? Then she has to have 7 clean days in that time period until she comes back until the menstrual cycle. No. What's it? No. Well, it depends what her cycle is. 11. The 11th day starts, so 10, and then if her cycle is 8, if it's 18 days of non-blood, or if it's 20 days, whatever her cycle is, right? Right? Back in the day, people had normal cycles. Today, no one's normal anymore. Right? It's not a normal world, and there is not a normal cycle. Okay? And people, anyways, is that clear? Okay, so our sages interpreted that, right? In other words, the 11 days, the end of her nida period, latchilas nida, until the beginning of her nida period. Shekol shloisha tzufim, then any 3 consecutive days, shetira, that she will see a discharge of blood. In these 11 days, tia zava, she becomes a zava gedela. Actually, in halacha means zava gedela, and that's when she has to bring a sacrifice. If she saw 3 days in a row from the 11th day until her menstrual cycle, right? But whether it's 28, 18 days, whatever, let's say 28-day cycle, right? So then it would be in those 18 days, right? Just by the Rambam doesn't learn it this way. Rashi learns it this way. Rambam learns it differently, but we're not going to do Rambam here. Rambam is much more complicated. So in those 18 days, if she sees 3 days in a row, she has to first of all count 7 days of clean days, and then she has to bring a sacrifice. If she saw 1 or 2 days, we learned this yesterday. What does she do? She has to still see 7 days, right, of clean, but she doesn't bring a sacrifice. That's what we learned yesterday. We're good? We're good? No, you're not. You're great. L'chaim. Okay. Kol HaMishka. That was actually pretty amazing, because this is like fundamental what we just learned to understand, at least biblically again, right? Biblically, the distinction, and we see now in the verse, it's very gishmak. Okay. Kol HaMishkav asher tishkav olav, and any bedding that she will lie upon. Kol Yemei Zoiva, all the days of Azav. When is she Azava? From when? From 11 days till the next menstrual cycle, right? Approximately 18 days, like David said, right? I mean, it could vary, but till the next, right? So now anything that she lies upon, right? Mishkav nidasa, and the same uncleanliness to her, law will be to her, and any object that she sits upon, like a chair, kitumas nidasa, she will be unclean, like her menstrual uncleanliness. First of all, what is this verse telling us that we didn't learn already? Oh, I think we only learned this yesterday about Azov. We didn't learn it about Azava. We learned it about the man, not the woman. Yesterday's teachings, right? We learned this. And even here, we learned it, different law. So here it's speaking about her now. Yesterday we spoke about him. But her, it's different, right? Because her is the 11th day till the menstrual cycle. By him, it's a different kind of discharge. It's not seminal. Remember we said yesterday, it's sort of like cloudy white, not white. Yeah, well, like a yolk that is no, it's like a yolk that's gone bad. Semen is like yolk that is not gone bad, and this Zav, this unusual seminal discharge, is one that's gone bad, different kind of white. Cloudy. Huh? Cloudy and it's gone putrid. Like the yolk gone putrid, in other words. And he had tumas nidasa, so she be unclean like her menstrual uncleanliness. Yitman, anybody who will touch them becomes impure. Chibes begada, right? Because this is now speaking about lying and sitting, which is more stringent. So therefore, it will become impure. And anybody who touches it, they themselves and their clothes, and needs both themselves and the clothing to go into the mikvah. Tami Adar, then will be unclean until the evening. Tara Mizeva Safra Allah Shivas Yamim Achatitar. and she becomes clean of her discharge, meaning how does she become clean from her discharge? 7 days she didn't see, right? Suffer Allah Shivat Yamin, because as the verse says, she has to count for herself 7 days. And she has to clean from her discharge. What does that mean? Meaning there's no blood that she's seeing for 7 days. Achatitar, and afterwards she becomes pure. Wow. This was more than just amazing.
Laws of family purity.
Yes. No, I mean, they're again, in halacha, they're brought together. Biblically, they're two different kinds of things, right? Coming from her, they're both from the uterus, right? But one is coming as her regular menstrual cycle, and another one's not coming as a result of the menstrual cycle. It's coming from some other. Well, you have to learn it in halacha. Here, if you're going to learn this, it's far from sufficient. This is the basis of it, right? Wow.
Doesn't make sense in one way. If she has to wait the 18 days, she misses her ovulation. So he can't impregnate her in that case. The other case, timing is that she comes out of it, so she's ready for ovulation. So this is different.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that often such a thing would happen.